You may find yourself living in a teardrop trailer. And you may find yourself in another part of the world. And you may ask yourself, well, how did I get here?
We're doing the What the Fuck episode 11. And I hope you can hear me because of the waves and beach. And I just thought that this would be a nice, peaceful place to talk about devastating events. So in the last episode, we ended with me at the Airbnb. And so after that, I went back to stay with the guy and did the things that I was out to do, even though I still wasn't feeling well. I had plans for kind of like apprenticeship internship thing, and I had plans for some art, and I found a place to live, and things like that. So I was feeling pretty good about it, and creating my own journey and creating my own path, because obviously this guy was going to treat me poorly. And he told me after he had went to the thing with the other girl, we're not gonna go home together or anything. I just need to be on dating sites because I don't want to miss an opportunity. So yeah, that felt good. But anyway, I was called, or I got a notification that I had to go back to Indiana for a divorce hearing, even though my ex-husband and I were on good terms at the time. And we came up with a 50-50 split that we submitted and signed and had notarized and sent off, and thought it was good to go. The court decided that it wasn't, so I had to show up for a hearing. And so I went back to Indiana, still not feeling well. My parents are kind of they weren't mad at me, but they weren't happy that I was just in bed all day and sweating and sick and feeling all these things when I was visiting them. I just wasn't me. I couldn't hang out with them because I was so sick. But I went down for the divorce hearing, and it ended up being the judge we were supposed to have, something happened, and it ended up being a retired 200-year-old man, traveling judge, who looked at me blank face and said, "You can't work this out." And I was like, no, that's why I filed for the divorce. And we came up with this agreement, and this is a 50-50 state, so we thought that this was fair. He said, well, I highly advise you to get a lawyer. And at that time, in my mind, I'm thinking, why? It's a 50-50 state. If it was at fault, I would have gotten everything, because he had the affair. And what we came up with was 50-50 and fair. And so legally, I didn't see why that was necessary. And so I didn't. And also I didn't have the money, for one. What if, I don't know what I was looking for. Why would I need one? And what if I lost or something? I couldn't pay that. So we went to the hearing, that happened, and he's like, well, I'll let you know what I come up with. I have to call Tozy. She was wandering on the beach. My little beach bum. Tozy! Tozy! what she's doing. But so I go and do that, and go back to California. Well, first I went to like a bunch of doctors in Indiana in different areas to try to figure out what the heck was going on with me, and none of them could figure it out. Finally, one doctor, he figured out that I had C. diff and probably, other bacterial infections from them wiping out my immune system from giving me the date rape drugs, like antibiotics and whatever, to fight STDs, and I ended up not having any. So it wiped out my system, my immune system. So everything that I had surfaced, and later blood work showed like EBV and CMT and all of these things that I also had on top of the C. diff at once. That usually in a healthy environment your body keeps at bay. But once it's wiped out, then the bad virus, like the bad bacteria and stuff, can take over, and that's what happened with me. So anyway, he treated me for that. I was feeling better. I stopped pooping all the time, and I was able to get out of bed and stuff, but I was still feeling super weird, my skin numb, just these strange new sensations, and this general malaise that was a whole new thing that I still can't really describe. And so the doctor told me that the neurological symptoms could have been from the C. diff itself, or the antibiotics, or something like that, even though I had them before all of that and I woke up with them. I was really ready for a new life and to start over, and I really felt like I was on my path to building something for me, and that I needed, and I was going where I needed to be. And once he told me that the nervous system repairs itself, and I would keep getting better, I believed that, and I packed up my car and got my dog and drove back to California to the place that I was going to rent. And on the way there, I stopped at my friend's house for a while. I made a bunch of stops, but I stopped at my friend's house to stay for a while. And so all I had with me was what fit in my tiny sedan and my dog, and that's all I took. It's really starting over. And the guy from California, was supposed to meet me in Colorado at my friend's house. His brother lived really close, and his friend was getting married really close, and so we were going to go to the wedding together. And so he met me there, and it was like a good reconnection, right, to me. What, oh, I missed you, blah blah blah, all sweet and romantic and whatever. And we went to the wedding. We had a great time with my friend, and then we went to the wedding and had a good time together. And he acted like we were together and saying 10 years later, here we are, and blah blah blah, all these things. And I didn't know it at the time, but I found out later that he, on the way to meet me in Colorado, had taken another girl with him, or camping on the way, and kayaking and stuff, and put it on his social media and things like that, which is stupid, right? But I would always ask, like, why don't you, like, put anything of us on there? He was hiding me from all these other girls. But he didn't feel like he needed to hide that from me while he was coming to Colorado to help me drive the rest of the way to California together. And we went and we did all the sightseeing through Utah and camping with friends and just took our time and had a really great time because I didn't know any of this at the time. So we get back to California and I move into the place. I have nothing in there. I just have these rooms that are empty and blankets on the floor. And so I'm staying with him a lot because I needed to get a bed and I needed to do these things and get my life together. But the very first night I was there, somebody just beat the shit out of my car with a crowbar, and all the windows were smashed, the sunroof, the doors, everything. So I woke up to that, and so then my car was in the shop for a long time, so I obviously didn't have a way to get to a job. So having no vehicle and it taking a really, really, really long time for them to fix it, it was like a month and a half. They kept telling me, oh, we'll get you a rental car, and they never did. So the places that I had work were I had to drive quite a ways, so I wasn't able to do that. I was just kind of stuck. And in that time period, I kept getting worse and more symptoms coming on and weaker, and like my skin was changing, getting really thin, and sometimes I could see through my hands, which was really scary. And so, all my plans kind of just didn't happen. And I ended up spending most of the time with, the guy and staying at his house because the place I had moved into had stairs and it was stressful. And that's the roommate story is next, maybe. But yeah, so I was treated for C. diff and was supposed to get better, but I didn't. And I'll stop there.
Let the days go by, let the water hold me down. Let the days go by, water flowing underground into the blue again. After the money's gone, once in a lifetime, water